Where exactly are you when that dream begins?
I'm in bed. I'm in bed. I hear a noise.
What does it sound like? What does it sound
like a can dropping, like a can.
And where does that sound seem to come from?
The garage. The garage. Something's in the garage. Something's in the garage. Something's in the garage.
What do you feel at this point?
Scared. Scared.
What do you want to do about it?
Big head. And dark eyes.
Dark eyes.
You don't have no hair.
No hair.
You don't have any ears.
No ears.
Here they come.
Some UFOs. UFOs. I think it's in the sun, but you can't tell.
Craig, tell me what it is that you experienced. You should probably start with the crystal shop.
Yeah, I could actually start even before the crystal shop. So it started, I was, I believe, about 12 or 13 years old, and my father had dropped me off at a big firework warehouse. One of his buddies owned it. Apparently he lived there with his mom in the basement. So he dropped me off for the night, and he was going to pick me up the next morning. So that night, I'm walking around the fireworks shop all night, just hanging out, checking everything out. I was a kid. I was super excited. So about 10, 11 o'clock, we go down to the basement. And my first impression, I start walking down the stairs. It's really dimly lit, and you can barely see anything except for maybe a TV in the back, like flickering, like an old black and white TV. So as I'm walking down these, creaky stairs and take a right, I just see like kind of a small kitchen area with a bunch of dirty dishes stacked up. I mean, taller than I was. It was pretty bad. And everything was just really messy and dirty and just damp and gross and not fun stuff being a kid. So I was already kind of a little creeped out. So he walks me over like kind of in front of a TV. And so maybe about 3 or 4 feet in front of me, there's a rocking chair. And he said, "That's my mom." He said, "You can sit down and just, watch TV or whatever, this black and white TV." I don't remember what was playing, but okay. So I was creeped out. So I sit down on the ground and I start checking stuff out, and I'm looking at her, and she's got really long fingernails, really nappy hair. I can only see maybe her right arm and her hand, and a little bit of the back of her head in this old wooden rocking chair. So I was already really creeped out at this point. But I ended up falling asleep at some point.
Ow.
I woke up.
Oh, scary.
I don't know. I think I fell asleep actually pretty quick. I think I was pretty tired from running around the fireworks store all night. But
yeah.
I fall asleep, and the first thing I see when I open my eyes is this woman is kneeling. She's probably about 90 years old, probably older than that. She's literally kneeling over me. No idea how she's kneeling over me, but on all fours as I'm laying down. And she's staring at me right in my face. And I open my eyes and I see her face and I freak out. And I like kind of threw her off me, and she made this awful grunting sound. And I ran up the stairs, ran through all the dirty dishes and everything, the whole kitchen area, ran up the stairs and called my dad, and I was bawling my eyes out, and it just totally freaked me out. I mean, I'm grontophobic to this day. I still get really bad anxiety around old people, like really old people that don't look like they are living anymore inside. They're just hollow shells walking around. So that kind of kicks off this whole story.
Just to pause for a moment, and I know that this might not have anything to do with it, but when people have hypnagogic states in waking life, there's this phenomenon known as the old woman on the chest. And it's an old woman who sits on the chest of the victim and like puts her face up to the other person's face. And it's terrifying for these people. It's terrifying for these people.
Had quite a few experiences with the old hag.
This is very closely related to the alien abduction phenomenon, which is also very closely related to NDEs, which are near-death experiences. Now, with that being said, please continue.
Okay, so needless to say, after that, I started having really bad nightmares. And my father started dating this Native American woman who owned this little rock shop, or it was called Natalie's Crystal Cove in Hooksett, New Hampshire. So he started dating this woman, and she gave me a dream catcher one night because I told her I was having really bad nightmares and just wasn't sleeping that well for a number of years after that. I was probably maybe 14 or 15 at this point. So she gave me a dream catcher, and that night just completely stopped having dreams. Never, ever remembered my dreams for years and years and years, like not even one.
How many years?
Probably was at least 20, 21. So I'd say like maybe 5, 6 years.
Okay.
Not one dream would I remember ever. Whether I had them there or not, I'm not sure, but I again, never remembered any of them. And before that, they were all, 99.9 of them, they were all nightmares. So around that time, my father moved to Florida, and then I moved out of that house, and in the process, lost a dream catcher. So just about maybe 2 or 3 days later, I had a really bad nightmare, and I woke up and I was like, holy shit. Like, I haven't had one of those in a long time. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it like caught me off guard. Like, woke up, my chest pounding, like I wasn't used to that. So the next day, me and my girlfriend, my new girlfriend, went out and got another dream catcher. Didn't work. Nothing ever worked after that original dream catcher like that one did. And this girl that I'm dating, she's in college and she's in a psychology class. So I go to her class a couple of times, and at the end of, I think the third or fourth time I was there, we stayed late and we started talking to the professor, and I told him what was going on because I was having this really bad reoccurring nightmare. And I've only been having it at this point for maybe like just a couple of months, but I probably had it every other 2 or 3 days. I'd have this reoccurring dream. So it would be me sitting at a long table, and there would be the woman on the other side with her son, and it'd be me on the other side, of course. And there would be all sorts of like knives and glass and stuff laid out on the table in front of her, and he would pick up different stuff and like cut her with it and everything, and they'd just be staring at me the entire time. And I was like so horrified that I was like in shock. I couldn't move out of that chair, and I'd have to sit there and just watch it. And then like they were just both staring at me with no emotion while they did this. I've had this dream for 15 years now, reoccurring. The third or fourth time I stayed late and we talked to her professor together, and I told him what was going on in my dreams and if he had any advice. And he said, maybe you should go see a therapist or something. And he's like, have you ever tried talking to the woman? And I said, I'm always frozen. I'm always paralyzed. I can't move at all. Like I can't talk. I can't move. I can't do anything. I'm just staring at them. Whether I want to talk or not, I think I'm so horrified. I can't do anything. So that dream continues my entire life. I think the last time I had it was maybe a week and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 2 weeks at the very most ago I had it. And it's weird because all this stuff kind of ties in together. Just over the past maybe 7 or 8 years, around the time I actually moved into Austin, I started getting really, really bad sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis, you wake up, you can't move, you can't talk, you can't do anything. Usually lasts a couple of seconds. It's pretty horrifying. So I don't know if it was my job or where I was at or the stress or whatever, but on my days off, some days I'd, feel kind of lazy and not do anything, and I'd take a nap in the afternoon, and I'd wake up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And sometimes maybe every other weekend, maybe once a weekend, I would get stuck in sleep paralysis where I would be stuck for like hours. Like I can't move for hours. And I'd even have friends over, and after I finally break out of it, they'd be like, you were making some really weird noises. I was like, yeah, I was trying to get you to help me because I was stuck in the sleep paralysis. And eventually everyone around me knew at that point what was going on. So recently I've been rescued a lot from that, and it hasn't been too bad. I mean, it lasts maybe 10 minutes or something, but I'm getting a lot better at being able to like at least make some sort of vocalization where people can at least hear something coming from me, and then they'll come over and like, either stand me up or wake me up. Or
that clearly to me, that at least that specific phase of your dream state is Jungian, and it's urging you, it's prompting you to do something about the situation so that the dream can continue. Now, I'm not saying that anything that follows has anything to do with this one single aspect, but this aspect, like, okay, you mind if we try something? I just want to make a suggestion to you.
Sure.
Tonight, when you fall asleep, you're going to have the dream again. And I want you to remember that the man cutting the woman is me. And instead of cutting the woman, I'm going to turn to you and cut the stitches from your mouth so that you can talk to the woman.
Right, but there are no stitches in my mouth. I'm just paralyzed, like sleep paralysis.
Yes. In your dreams, you can't really tell if it's stitches or not.
Right, true.
So repeat what I said.
Yep, I'll go to sleep and I'll try to imagine you being the man and cutting the stitches from me so I can speak.
Right, perfect. That should be a good enough prompt for your unconscious mind to do the rest.
So throughout this whole time, what we were talking about, the old hag, I've never had an experience where she's been up close to my face, ever. I've never seen her face, never seen any details about her face. but I feel like it is related because I've seen her well over probably 50 times. I mean, in all these years that I'm surprised it hasn't been more than that, but every time it's horrifying. And every time she has the same hair, and I can still see them same fingernails from the woman in the basement, which makes me think it's all, it's all tied in together.
What are all five senses operating during this time? Can you see and hear? And if you can, what are you smelling? What are you hearing? What are you tasting? What are you touching? What are you feeling?
That's all I hear is them. It's pretty much dead quiet. I can imagine the smell. I would imagine it smells kind of like that basement, kind of just damp, but literally in something that stood out for me when you said that, there's absolutely no noise. Like I can hear even when he goes to grab something and like his fingernails touch the table, I can hear everything. There's no noise except for them. When he's cutting her, it's completely silent except for whatever he's doing.
The elderly have a scent about them. And what this is like when you put a banana in a closet with other bananas, it's a gas that is formed from the skin, the peel of the banana. Something similar happens with the elderly. A breakdown of certain proteins causes this gas to arise. Try and remember that the next time an old hag experience comes, and that will be your key to understanding whether or not it's an actual old hag or if it's a prompt.
Oh, I know that the smells are, again, if I were to just think about it, I can almost taste that smell, and they would be the same when the old hag is around, whether I'm dreaming, having a flashback about the basement or I'm reliving that, reoccurring nightmare. So I started getting really bad sleep paralysis at this point. Like I said, I've talked to many people about it, and everyone around me kind of knows, hey, if he makes an odd noise or something, just go over there and wake him up. And the one guy that never did it was my best friend, and it used to piss me off so much because I would be to the point where I'm almost yelling help, but I just can't say the words. Almost help if you were to have your mouth closed. Like he'd turn over and look at me and just look back at the TV. And every time I wake up, I'm like, I want to kill you. Like, why can you not get me up when something like this happens? So all of my dreams are nightmares. 99.9. I don't even think I remember last time I haven't had a nightmare. Now it's to the point where I feel like the reoccurring nightmares aren't happening as much, but now it's getting to the point where the sleep paralysis is happening more. And now I can't tell if I'm awake or I'm asleep. This one time I don't know if it was a dream. Okay, so let's just say I had a dream where I stumbled outside of my door and I passed out right in front of my door on this little wooden walkway that I had. Okay. And I woke up and I was literally, in the dream, I stumbled outside and I fell down and I got stuck like in sleep paralysis. And at some point I fell asleep. So after that, I woke up and I was laying on the wooden walkway outside of my door. Whether it happened the way I dreamt it happened, or like I was stuck outside there for a couple of hours, or if it just happened, I don't know. And there's a lot of examples like that.
There is no Fight Club.
Yeah, no shit, right? This one time, okay, I was working at this job, and I had a really bad toothache, and I was a manager. One of my employees gave me a couple of Percocet or whatever, and I wasn't used to taking them, but I took them, and okay, let me start over. So I had a dream where I was high and falling asleep or nodding out during a manager meeting, okay? And I woke up, didn't think much of it, whatever. A couple of weeks later, my boss comes up to me and he says something. I was doing something stupid at work. I don't remember what it was, but just joking around. And he's like, you don't want it to be like that time you were nodding out during the manager meeting. It was like a couple of weeks ago. When you were falling asleep, you couldn't even keep your head up. I said, bro, that was a dream. I said, I feel like this is a dream now because that was a dream. And he goes, no, that was 100% real. You almost lost your job because you were falling asleep during a manager meeting. I was like, what the fuck? And a lot of the times my dreams feel like they last forever. This one dream, I had a dream where I told you about this. I was floating through space and I was stuck in sleep paralysis. I mean, for years and years and years, I was stuck in the sleep paralysis in this little rocket by myself, just floating through empty space. And I woke up and I wasn't stuck in sleep paralysis, but it took me literally probably 3 minutes to even figure out who I was or where I was. I woke up and I'm like, where the fuck am I? And I'm looking around and I go and I open my door and I didn't even know who I was for the first couple of minutes when I woke up. That's how long I was in this dream. For me, it wasn't a couple of seconds. For me, it lasted 10, 20 years. I literally woke up and I felt like I had more gray hairs. Like it took time from, that's what I feel like.
Why do you use the word rocket?
I think I used spaceship. I don't remember actually taking off in a rocket. I just remember simply floating through space in an empty spaceship, like a small spaceship.
Like how small?
It was probably about the size of a large bed, just barely enough room for me, maybe one other person. It was a really small spaceship, but I just remember waking up and feeling like those years just got evicted from my soul. I woke up and I just felt older. I was drained of energy. I didn't know who I was at first, didn't know where I was. It took me minutes to even realize like who I was again for a second. And that's going to be a theme for the next 7 years of my life that I've been living in Austin. I've had dreams where I've had entire families and different jobs, and I remember like little details about some of these dreams, and it seems like they last forever. And a lot of the times I wake up, and sometimes if I am stuck in sleep paralysis for a little bit, it's kind of like a warm blanket because I wake up and I can't move, and I wake up and if I don't know where I am or who I am, it gives me time to think for a second, like, all right, I'm used to the sleep paralysis. I've had it probably in the previous dream that I just came out of, so I'm like used to that. So I just kind of gather my thoughts and, try to remember what's going on again in my life and where I'm at.
You said that during one of these dreams, you passed away. And in doing so, you were confronted by a being. He said something specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a dream. I just woke up in this dream, and it was the typical kind of just can't see anything, just kind of white with a voice in the background. And that's all it asked me is, if you could start over, would you? And I said, fuck yeah, of course. And I remember saying it twice like that, like, of course I will. And then instantly I was like 5 years old again. I wasn't a baby, or I wasn't an infant. I was probably about 5 years old, could definitely walk. I was probably in like first grade and just knew everything that I knew now. Just as a little child, I don't remember looking in a mirror and remembering it being me, but that I was him, as a child, knowing everything that I know. And I just remember like breezing through middle school and, everything after that, high school, staying away from drugs, like getting really good grades. And it was fucking fantastic.
Do you remember your name?
I remember I was at the same middle school. I went to the same high school. I don't think I was with the same girlfriends because I wouldn't have done that again, of course.
Did you have the same family?
Yep, same family, same dad, same sister. Yep, same everything. But now that you mention that, that's kind of weird because my mom passed away when I was young, and I don't remember her ever being in that dream. So I guess I didn't have a choice in that matter, which is
interesting.
That would have probably been a big help as far as changing my life,
So this is where the list came into play. And you told me about it, that I've been keeping a detailed list of summaries of these dreams, and you use them almost as a like a feed, because you see them and you immediately remember the entire experience. And I was like looking through this vast list and thinking this must be hundreds, maybe even thousands of years of experience that you've accumulated. And but you're telling me that most of these are not pleasant.
Yeah, the one with the the one where I went back as a kid, that one was good. And there might have been one other really weird offshoot one where I was on the beach with, I think Robert De Niro or some shit, something like that. I remember bringing up a beach story too and was like, no one ever has good dreams, I feel like, but I had one dream with Robert De Niro and maybe a horse on a beach or some shit. I don't remember, but that was an offshoot. But all the other ones have been nightmares.
How many whores were on the beach? Oh,
Horses.
Stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, just one horse. One horse on the beach with Robert De Niro.
If you don't mind, and before we get into the list, we've already done this once, so we might as well just use this one as the first experience. But I'd like to do the random selection again. But we already did the random selection, and it was, I can't remember exactly what it said. A ghetto neighborhood, and you go into a house that has a basement and a loft. Could you read the entire thing? Maybe so that people can get an idea of what these summaries sound like.
What my clip notes are like? Yeah, sure. Just give me one moment.
At the moment, at the forefront of science, particularly quantum physics, they've made certain discoveries which suggest that these things called microtubules in the brain are quantum in nature, even though they're macro-sized objects. The reason I say macro and make the distinction in the first place is because quantum physics deals with things on a very small, at the subatomic level, and relativity, or rather Newtonian physics, deals with things at the very large level, like the planet. But there's a line in between these two schools of thought, which cannot be passed typically. And the reason that there's a line is because gravity does not work in the quantum realm. It just breaks down. The equations break down for some reason. And they've been trying to find a way to reconcile these two very successful theories, descriptions of reality. But as of yet, we have been unable to do so. Now, people say, oh, it's just because, man isn't perfect and, our understanding isn't perfect. But, we had a pretty clear running from understanding the atoms to, where we finally got to germ theory. And it's just, there's these breakaways in our understanding of reality that suggest that reality itself may not be what we think it is.
Okay. So you got to remember, these notes are for me. These are right when I wake up, the second I wake up, and I've probably only written down maybe just like a small fraction of them. So again, these notes are just for me, just something to remember, to like flash me back to that point or something, so I can remember the dream.
Right.
That's all it says is house on the west side, downtown, bad neighborhood, gangs, huge fucked up basement with death and horror, but I'm oddly comfortable with it. That's all it says.
Weird.
As soon as I read that, I can just remember the house was one of my girlfriends, that not that I've dated in this life, but in my dream it was one of my girlfriends. So if I were to explain the house, it'd say Manchester is like a little New York, like downtown is kind of city-like, and she had like a house downtown. It wasn't an apartment, it was like a house. So imagine like you're going down a street, like an L-shaped street, okay, and there are buildings all on the left and in front of you, in front of that L. So her house is right straight in front, right on the corner, not on the left corner, but straight ahead. So if you're staring at this house, to the left there'd be a parking garage where they parked their car in, and it was open, although there was no car in it. And then to the right, there's a door. You open that door and you go upstairs, and it's just straight up. It's just a plain hallway. And then it turns to the right, just a plain hallway again. And it opens up into a living room. You walk through, and there's a couch or a little chair to the left. There's a couch to the front left. To the right of that, there's a TV. And then if you go right, you walk kind of through the living room, and there's a little kitchen area with the kitchen's to the left and the counter's kind of right in the middle. And if you walk to the right of that counter, there's like a little seated area next to a window right there, right in front of you. Like if you were to go to the living room and look straight ahead, there's a window. There's a couple of seats right there to the right. And there's a door underneath the loft right there to the right. And if you were to go straight and go up the loft, that's where my girlfriend's bedroom was, right on top of the loft. Okay. So that's what I remember about the house. And I remember like even stupid little details. Like I can remember like, you know, posters she would have had on her wall and stuff like that. And I can visualize them almost. But so if you go back outside and you go to the garage, in the far left corner, there's a door. So there's no door on it either. The garage is open. There's no door on it. So you walk through that door and then immediately you see a wall and it veers to the right. So like it's almost going parallel underneath the house. So as soon as you turn right, that's all you see is a very dim lit hallway, kind of same thing, like broken flashing lights. And there's a bunch of doors, maybe 20 or 30 doors, like 10, 15 on each side of the hallway as you're walking down. And as you walk past all these rooms, there's a bunch of different shit going on. Like, I don't want to be too graphic, but it's like really bad shit going on in the rooms, like kind of people being like hung up like Texas Chainsaw Massacre shit. And, you know, there'd be some room with just maybe like fucking body parts in it, and some rooms where someone's like hanging on a wall or something. But it was weird because, like I said, the very few dreams, or they're all nightmares, but very few I'm like kind of, you know, not scared in. But this one I was oddly comfortable with it. I don't know if it's because I knew her family and knew her, and at this point in our relationship, she was like, hey, I got something to show you. Even though what they were doing wasn't okay, I wasn't scared for some reason. Like I remember being like, what the fuck is this shit? But I wasn't like running in terror outside the door, you know what I mean? Screaming and calling for the cops. So I was just like, what the fuck is going on, you know?
Yeah. Remember, maybe it was some sort of a like a haunted house, or like a realistic haunted house. But something in your description suggested otherwise.
I think it could have. To me, it had the same smell as the basement in the fireworks store. I mean, it was walking, like when the moment I was walking past all them dirty dishes, and I wasn't scared, but I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is going on here? What is this fucking weird old woman in this chair? What are all these dirty dishes? You know, like I wasn't screaming and getting ready to run out of there, but I was just like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, this is fucking weird. I was just like hanging out, being a kid and having a blast in a fireworks store. And I come down here and it's like a dungeon down here. You know what I mean? Like a dirty, dim lit, grimy dungeon, you know? And to me, that's kind of had that same sort of feel. And I don't know, it kind of cuts off after that.
I think it's prudent to suggest that maybe the initial experience set him up to then experience other lives, other realities, which had that same, contextual feel. He's obviously a sensitive of some kind. And when I say sensitive, I mean he's obviously developed some new sense mechanism which allows him to either see or camouflage against or fight against one of the many areas where humanity is being predated upon. And we are most certainly being predated upon.
I don't know if at the end of the hallway is when I get scared or whatnot, but throughout that whole dream, I was just kind of okay with it, you know what I mean? There wasn't a point like what happened to me as a child where I freaked out and, you know, ran upstairs and started crying and stuff.
Well, here's something that interests me. You know, it's rare enough that you're able to experience this at all, or at least remember the experience. Maybe we're all having experiences like this and we just don't consciously remember them. I would like to give you this one little anecdote from our historical record. There's a book that was written, the very first story book. It was called the Enuma Elish, which translates roughly to the story of the deep. And Gilgamesh was like a the antediluvian. No, he was a he was an antediluvian king, kind of put in as a ruler of humanity by the Anunnaki or his gods, and he was described as being 2/3 God. I don't know how that works out, but to me, it just suggests that he was created in a lab for a specific purpose. But I'm sure somebody can say, Tad, you're stupid. You don't understand mathematics or genetics or how babies are born, which is probably true. So I'm just going to breeze over that. But the story is of this man, Gilgamesh, who is just a fucking terrible, 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 terrible person. He was raised by the gods who automatically have a distaste for humanity. They look at humanity as cattle, things to just, if they get out of hand, they can cause problems. So they have to be managed while the gods are on planet or in reality or whatever, however you want to see these things. But Gilgamesh is the same way. He behaves the same way as the gods do, but he's not as measured as the gods. The gods maybe practice their thickness in private. Gilgamesh would openly walk the streets and rape women in front of their fathers and brothers. He once enslaved like a third of his own population to build ziggurats to the gods. It's fucking crazy. So the gods were like, okay, this is not working. This is not working. This is not working. We're getting upset now. We need to figure this out. So they cloned this creature, or they made this creature. Sorry, I'm not going to say the word cloned. And he was like a wild man, very powerful. And they put it into the city with Gilgamesh, actually outside the city walls. And they made Gilgamesh go and approach this thing. And this thing immediately attacked him. And they fought outside of the city walls for days. Finally, Gilgamesh subdued the beast and thereafter became its very best friend. They were inseparable. This man thing was called the Enkidu. And they went on this great adventure together because Gilgamesh wanted to discover the secrets of immortality. And they had a series of misadventures which culminated in, actually, Enkidu died battling some robot, literally, while they were stealing cedars from this forest somewhere. There's a lot to unpack there, but we're not going to get into that now.
Actually, I kind of want to put the tip in just a little bit on this. So the cedars from the forest, it seems that's weird. Like, why would you steal cedars from the forest if you're the ruler of the forest? Even if there's some robot guarding it, it doesn't mean it's your forest, right? So I never understood what the fuck that meant until I read was it the Zohar? I can't remember, the Zohar maybe? Anyways, it was talking about the 6 supernal days of creation, referred to as the 7 supernal days of creation, referred to as the 7 cedars of Lebanon. Ha. So when they're speaking about cedars, they're talking about creation. So if they're stealing some creative force from the forest, why would they disguise that using such bizarre language? There's still a little mystery there, and I'm not going to be super satisfied until it all comes back. So I'm going to go ahead and just submit this to my subconscious.
Finally, Gilgamesh, in his sorrow over Enkidu, decides to finish the journey that they both had started together. So he gets into a ship and sails it to this underground kingdom where he knows that Methuselah is living on an island beneath, this chthonic island beneath the earth. Methuselah was given immortality by the gods. So something happens and the story flash forwards and Gilgamesh is in this sailboat And he finally reaches on this island, and he sees this old man approaching from the distance with a torch. And Gilgamesh pulls his sword from its scabbard. Giant. He's a giant man. I don't know if you can even call him a man. He's very big, like 16 foot tall. And he runs towards this little old man. Actually, I think Methuselah was described as a giant too, so I don't want to say that. But he approaches Methuselah, and Methuselah's like, "What do you want?" Very measured, very old. And, Gilgamesh just screams into his face, "You have immortality, and you're going to give it to me." And Methuselah starts gut laughing, like he was just told the funniest joke in the world, and Gilgamesh gets upset. And Methuselah looks at him and says, How could you possibly understand immortality when you don't even understand dreams? And he puts his finger on Gilgamesh's forehead, and before Gilgamesh can pull his sword up even an inch, he collapses onto the sand and falls asleep for days.
Technically, it's translated as sleep, not dreams. But fucking, what is the author going to come back and sue me? Watch. You just watch. Gilgamesh is going to be re-fucking incarnated, and he's gonna like show up at this 16-foot tall fucking monster is gonna show up wherever the fuck I am, and gonna be like, "Hey, listen, it feels like you've infringed upon my property, even though that property is intellectual." So, and then you just hear like the of like his sword coming out. Please, seriously, if anyone has any kind of information about maybe the possible return of Gilgamesh, warn me.
So there's something about dreams it's very important for us to understand as a species, and as of yet, all we've done is make guesses. And I think that this is a very important step forward in understanding what could be a key. Keep going. Sorry.
So I think this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people at this point in the conversation, because if you had all this experience with dreams and stuff, why don't you, try to astral project or, try to do something or control it? Well, over the years I have, trust me. A couple of times, maybe a handful of times. I remember this one time, I was in a shed, sleeping in the shed, and this almost Jason-like guy with a mask was banging on the door trying to get in. But by the end of the dream, I actually flew away from him. Like, I realized what was going on, and I was able to fly and actually flew away. And it was fucked up because he started flying after me, but that's not the point. So I think this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people, though, because you said the whole thing about him not understanding dreams, and we were talking about this earlier, and I feel like through all my experiences, I feel like I know what happens when you die. Over the last maybe 5 years, like I said, I've been in Austin for about 7 when all the major stuff has been going on. My dreams in the past 5 years, maybe I'd say well over 10 times when dreams get really bad. Sometimes it's going to sound really bad, but sometimes I can kill myself in my dream. I can take my own life, and I'll either wake up or I'll wake up in another dream. There was this one really bad example that I told you earlier where I remember I was going to school, I was in college, I was doing really, really bad, just doing drugs, making an ass of myself, lying to my family, and I ended up killing myself. And so I killed myself, and I woke up as a little girl being molested by her dad at some point, which
Fuck. Terrible.
Yeah, but that was probably the worst dream I've had, even after killing myself and seeing all sorts of other horrible shit. That was probably the worst one I've ever had. And yeah, but I was in a really bad one, and I killed myself, and I woke up in an even worse one. And that's how I feel like I kind of know. It's happened to me so many times in my dreams where I've taken my own life, and I've waken up, or like I said, I've waken up in a dream, and it's probably not a good dream, but if it's to the point where I took my own life in my dream, it was probably a really bad dream. So I probably woke up in something marginally better, you know. A lot of the times I do. But I feel like that's kind of what happens when you die. I feel like you just wake up somewhere or someone else, you know. I've never woken up as an animal or an insect or anything, but
he does seem to be popping in and out of these lives during moments of either extreme stress, extreme fear, or moments of disassociation. Fascinating.
you know, it's always been another person, another life, and I can remember the differences between them and different families, different lives, and stuff like that, but just two completely different people that have nothing to do with each other.
Now, yeah, I said earlier that it's rare enough that you're experiencing these things at all, but it's even rarer, maybe perhaps, that you're experiencing all these negative. Could you maybe be interpreting them as bad, and it could just be the state of the world that we're living in? Like, my understanding of reality suggests that our current iteration of civilization is not a good one.
Would you like me to read through some of the little clip notes of some of these dreams? This is one of the ones where I couldn't tell whether I was sleeping or awake. That's all it says was, tried my hardest to stand up. When I did, I woke up not out of the dream, and I was standing on my feet in the middle of the room. Now that I read that, I can remember what was going on. I remember just being in the same room I was in, but I was sitting in a chair, stuck in sleep paralysis, trying really, really hard to stand up. And then I woke up and I was literally just standing in the middle of the room when I opened my eyes, like standing on both my feet. Weird. Okay, I had another one that says, I had a dream where I had a bad accident and a big portion of my leg was almost ripped off and it was hanging together by the bone and a couple of my tendons. I was on a bus avoiding a stalker that was chasing me for the past couple of years, and I became kind of a vagabond at this point, and that's all it said. So I was literally being stalked around the country by some dude, and I got into an accident and almost I did lose my leg in that dream. I don't remember what time period, but I do remember it was somewhere in the mountains. I can clearly remember it was in front of almost like a gas station, kind of like a very isolated gas station. I remember seeing like mountains in the far distance, like really big mountains. I'm not sure where that would be. It wasn't New Hampshire because I would have known that, but
Colorado, perhaps, the Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, I've never been there, but it sounds like that would be something. It would be something like that, kind of like snow-covered peaks. This one says, I had a dream that I was sleeping in the shed and I heard a vacuum running and I knew that I was late for work and I kept trying to get out of my hammock and I turned on the lights, but the power was out. And so I go out and just laid back down. And I woke up and it was like 5:30 in the morning. And that's all I remember is when I woke up, I even wrote this in my notes, my arms hurt and my legs hurt, my chest hurt. It felt like I did a freaking 3-hour workout like that morning. Like my whole body kind of hurt. Like, so the dream was I was struggling to get out of my hammock, stuck in my hammock and fighting it. And I woke up and like my muscles hurt. This one says, I had a dream I was trapped inside of a huge hospital with a bunch of creatures. Said one specific part was I locked myself into a tiny office where there was a mini fridge that I had opened and it had just a few things in it, like a head and an arm. Yeah, I opened the fridge and a head came rolling out of this refrigerator. I was at a hospital. I vaguely remember that one. Even reading it, I vaguely remember it. I really don't even watch any like horror or gory movies either. It's not something I read about or something I even think about. Kind of been a theme in my dreams. I don't know why. There was this other dream where I was in my old city of Manchester, New Hampshire, and I remember there was like a parade coming through, and it almost kind of reminded me of that movie, that new Batman movie where the Bane was there
Oh,
almost,
yeah.
but it was like they like released a bomb in the city. I remember running into, it was like a big crowd of people ran into a lobby that had a glass door, and we like locked the doors, and we could literally just see like people melting on the other side of the glass door, like from whatever they released, like in the city. You know, just a lot of stuff like that. And like I said, that's not even something I'm into. I've never been into that because I've always had like really bad nightmares about it. So I don't know where all the gore and the stuff comes from, and it seems odd even looking at these, how much there is, because again, it's not something that's ever been like a part of my life besides just solely being in my dreams.
People who are listening to this, I'm going to ask Craig for permission to, maybe copy the text of these summaries. And if anybody wants to ask him about any one of these items, he's going to set up an X account, and you can do so. I'll provide that.
Craig Zogo at Craig Zogo P as in penguin 17199. That is his Twitter handle.
Also, if anybody would like to maybe data into some sort of a cogent table, I just feel like there's something to be learned from the kind of the errant data, the ambient data here. There's something very, very important hidden in the errata of all of this, and I must find out what it is. But we're at the feet of Methuselah here, and we have moments before he puts his finger on our forehead. So, Craig, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I'll even take screenshots and I'll show people the dates of all these things. I mean, I got ones from 8/16, 8/18, 8/6/88, another one from 8/6, another one from 8/4, 7/24, 7/12, 7/10, 7/5. I'll take screenshots of all these so they can see the actual timestamp of all these as well. So it's not like I just wrote them up on the spot, you know what I mean? They're all in my email account, and I just wrote down little snippets of something I could flash back into.
All right, I just thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know it's weird to talk to a stranger about this, but yeah, it's great that you took the time to do this with me. Thank you. Anyways, it's time to wake up, bro.
You have done your work, Oloka. You have done your work too well.
You are not the operative I was sent for.
No. Now, with 2 centuries of power learned on Earth, there is no core who can withstand me now.
Thank you for listening to the Secret Society Study with Ron Chat.